Hi there, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Hunstead. I'm a paediatric nurse, mum of two, and founder of CPR Kids. And today on this Facebook Live, we are talking about the Daycare Blues. Now, if you've got a little one who is in preschool or daycare, I am sure that you completely understand what I'm talking about here. That they can often just be constantly sick with the time that they're there. You almost feel like they have a perpetual runny nose. They've had gastro probably 2 or 3 times, and that's how it is. So what we're going to be talking about today is this normal? Can it be prevented? And what do you do about it? So before we get into this, if I can get you to please just give me a thumbs up or a wave or something, just so I can make sure that you are all hearing me well. And for those of you who haven't attended one of our Facebook Live sessions before, at CPR Kids, what we do is we empower parents and families with the life-saving skills of baby and child first aid and recognition of the sick child. So we are all about making sure that you know how to confidently help your child when they are sick or injured. And we run Facebook Lives just like this, and also face-to-face classes, and we are about to launch an online program as well. So the Daycare Blues. Now, what is really interesting is that children under the age of 6 can actually have between 9 to 10 colds a year. Now, that is huge. When you think about that, there's 12 months in a year. If you're getting, 9 to 10 colds per year, and if you're wondering where I got that data from, that is from the CS Mott Children's Hospital. I can put a little link down there if anybody wants to read the studies into this. But if you think that, the duration of a cold may be anything between 2 to 5 days, they're having these 9 to 10 times a year, they're pretty much sick all the time. And certainly common illnesses that are caused by viruses that are really easily spread, obviously things like the common cold, gastro, that lovely diarrhea or vomiting. And a lovely friend of mine, she uses the term a trip to Browntown. You may well have had that a fair bit. And of course, there's the other common child illnesses like hand, foot and mouth, or slap cheek, impetigo. So those other lovely things that kids like to share. Now, one of the things that can be really difficult, but especially if you are a working parent, a single parent, when everything is reliant on you, is that taking all that time off when your kid is sick can be really, really tricky. So a lot of the questions that we get asked are, how can we prevent this? Well, and is it causing my child any issues? Is there something wrong with my child that they keep getting sick? Well, you know what? It's normal for children who are exposed to all of these bugs, because kids love to share stuff when they are in that environment. They lick each other, they sneeze all over the toys, they then share, and you know what? It's inevitable that they are going to share their germs. It's also important for their immune system to be picking up these, simple types of viruses such as the common cold, for them to build up resistance to these things. So you certainly, what will happen is your child will build up their immune system. By the time they get to primary school, they're probably going to be resilient to everything. So they do actually need to be exposed to these things. So, certainly we don't want them catching terrible diseases, but having a common cold, even though it's wearing you down, even though they seem constantly sick, even though it is actually, could be so awful with the time that you need to take off, and they keep doing these cycles throughout the family, you know what, it is building up their immune system too. So I know that that's not much of a comfort, but it's an important thing. So that is part of the Daycare Blues, and they will eventually get through it. It's kind of like that no sleeping thing, isn't it? People always say to you, they'll get through it, you'll get your sleep back one day. But when you're in the trenches, It's really hard. So what sorts of things can you do to help a bit? So making sure that your child has a good varied diet of all those things, you know, that nutritionally they've got a lot of support on board. That's really important so that they can fight off this stuff. They're not knocked out when they get it. It might just be a couple of days at home and then back again, rather than, you know, completely succumbing. So keeping their immune system nice and healthy through a good nutritious diet is really important. One of the biggest things that you can do, hand washing. So it's using soap and water. It's that contact that's really important. So washing hands, if they're sick, your hands, you know, and their hands 30 seconds, which is a long time. That's 2 rounds of happy birthday. But making sure that when they are sick, that before they eat, that we're really, really extra vigilant with the hand washing so that everybody in the household doesn't get sick. Making sure that before you eat that you are washing your hands, everybody's washing their hands. Making sure that they are catching their coughs and sneezes in their elbows, not, you know, not that kind of stuff, because that's how we spread it around again. So thinking about these things, and particularly if your child has got gastroenteritis, changing their nappies, you need to be so vigilant with hand washing. It's really, really important. So being good with that kind of stuff, making it a habit, making sure that your child knows to catch their coughs and sneezes, not to be all over the place once they've all over you. And another one that can be real, oh, sorry, I've just noticed that there's a question there. Menka has asked, what if they're too small to catch a cough? You know what, yep, I completely understand that. Developmentally, it's when they can developmentally. In the meantime, it's just about, you know, starting I was about to say training. God, they're not an animal. Gosh, where did my brain just go then? Not training a kid. I'm so sorry. Educating your child when they're old enough that they will start to mimic you, and that so if you start doing it at home, they will start to mimic you as well once they're developmentally able to as well. So start it young, okay? Start it really young. You know what, and as I said before, sometimes it is completely unavoidable. However, when do we need to keep our children home? That is the $1 million question. If your child has a fever, which is defined by the Children's Hospital Network as a temperature, usually measured under the arm by a digital thermometer, as 38 degrees or above, they need to be home. Okay, a lot of other daycares have got their own policies regarding this. Ask your daycare. So what we particularly, when at the Children's Hospital Network, do describe a fever as above 38 degrees. If your child has a fever, they need to be home. Not only because they're probably feeling crappy, they need rest, they need fluids, they need to be at home. Now, when can you send them back? It depends on the illness that they have. So for certain illnesses, such as hand, foot and mouth, we need to wait until your child's lesions are crusted over, that they're dried up. Certainly for influenza, for example, we need to keep them away from daycare until they are 48 hours free of fever and symptoms. Thinking about gastroenteritis, they need to be 24 hours clear of any symptoms such as diarrhea and vomiting. So from the last runny poo, 24 hours clear. And remember to check this with your centre, and depending on what state you are in as well, because it does vary from centre to centre and state to state. Now, so that's really important for you to check. What about just a common cold? If your child is coughing and spluttering and they are just a walking snot factory, they're unwell, they're miserable, you need to keep them home. Now, there is a fallacy, and that is that the colour of the snot determines whether or not your child is infectious. So green snot equals infectious. Not true. Completely not true. It's not about the colour. They might be infectious, but they also might be infectious if their snot is clear as well. So it is not about the colour of the snot. It's about looking at your child as a whole. Are they well? Are they their normal selves? You know what? If every child with a snotty claw nose was excluded from daycare, the daycares would be empty. There would be no one there. It's about looking at your child going, you know what? Are they actively unwell? Are they miserable? Are they lethargic? Are they just coughing and spluttering everywhere and, you know, actively in the midst of this infection that they can get everywhere? Or are they actually on the improve? When they wake up in the morning, yeah, they might still have that bit of green snot, but you know what? They're back to normal. They're looking good. We're a few days past the illness now. Then yeah, they probably can go back. But dosing them up beforehand to get rid of their fever to send them to daycare isn't cool. All right, not just for the other kids who are there, and you know, the educators who are subjected to this child who can pass on this illness, but your child might be feeling like crap too. They need to be at home and resting. And I get it. I'm a working parent. I have been, you know, since my children went into daycare, both at the age of 1, and because that's what worked for our family. And you know what works for your family is what you need to do. And I understand how hard it is with taking time off, especially when they keep getting sick. I get this. I understand. But sometimes it's just what we have to do. It's about looking at your child as a whole. All right? Really important. So I hope that has shed a little bit of light on some things. Certainly, I've noticed some comments there that Danielle, hello Danielle, has said that, you know, that there's a new house every week since the start of May. Absolutely, it is. It is so frustrating. It really is. And I'm seeing comments in there going, yep, same. I completely get it. But take a small comfort. I feel like those horrible people who, when you're in the midst of the no sleep, they say, look, get your sleep back. And you feel like, ah. But you know what? Your child's immune system will build up. They will become more tolerant. And you know what? It will happen, I promise, and they'll be the healthiest kids in, you know, when they end up getting into primary school. Okay, so I know there's not much comfort there, but stand solid. You will get through this. Okay, it's about using your networks. Who have you got who can help look after your kids? I understand. I get it. So in summary, it's normal for kids to have colds and minor viruses like that, you know, certainly up to 9 to 10 times a year when they're under the age of 6, which is huge. Small things that we can do: keep their immune system as healthy as it can be with good nutritional diet, which is really important. Being able to do things like getting that hand washing going really, really well. Once they can, educate, not train, educate them to cough and sneeze into their arms just like that, and to be able to wash hands afterwards, before eating, after toileting, all that kind of stuff is really important. And just, I know how hard it is, but if they have a temperature, they need to, no, not a temperature, everybody's got a temperature. They have a fever, usually recorded 38 degrees under the arm with a thermometer. Then they need to be at home. Don't be tempted to dose them up and then send them there. They're probably going to feel miserable too. And it's not about the colour of the snot. It's about looking at your child. They can still be infectious with clear snot. They might not be infectious with green snot. They may be. It's about looking at your child as a whole. So what I'd love you to do is please put in the comments below, what would you like us to talk about next time? If you've got any questions now, please just go ahead and type them in, and I can see if I can answer them. And also, the other thing that I'd love to be able to do is appeal to everyone. Please make sure that you do a hands-on first aid class. So let's get to the questions. All right, here we go. Just having a look here. How can I go back and watch from the start? Once I'm done, we'll post this to our page. You can watch it from the start and share it around with all of your friends too. So does the colour of the snot indicate how far they are through the cold? Okay, that's a great question, Kristen. So what happens is that when they tend to have a runny nose, it can be multiple causes, okay? That colouring is actually caused by what happens is your immune system comes along and attacks the virus or bacteria. And the colour of the snot is actually, for want of a better way of saying it, is dead viral or bacterial bodies. So it's the waste products of our immune system fighting off this. So normally a cold or something like that will start with a clear runny nose, because the immune system hasn't come along to come and eat all of these things, and then it's our waste products being, basically taken away. So it can mean that the immune system's fighting it off and they're towards the end of their cold, but they still may be infectious or sick. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not about the colour, it's about looking at your child. Okay, so yes, that absolutely may well have that thick, yucky stuff when they're feeling better. Okay, so yes, Natalie has said sick every 2 to 3 weeks since starting in March. Yes, I agree, I know. And thank goodness winter is nearly over, because that's another thing too. When they're all inside together, they're more likely to be sharing those germs. At least when they've got that freedom to run outside, there's a bit more space. So yes, thank you, Kurt. I'm glad this information has been helpful. And Danielle has said, can you please repost talk on fevers? You know what? If you go to our page, so the CPR Kids page, and just go to where the videos are, everything is posted there. And we post all of our Facebook Lives on our YouTube channel, CPR Kids TV. So we've got 30 odd videos on our YouTube channel that you can go to at any time and watch a whole lot of stuff on a whole different subjects for paediatric health. Now, Beck has said that her 7-month-old has been sick, coughing and sneezing and runny nose since started daycare 3 weeks ago. And the doctor said that it's a virus and he's okay for daycare, but he isn't getting better. Do you have any tips? So if the doctor has said that it's all right to go back, it may well be that your little one is going to roll along like this for a while. So remembering 7 months old, probably not going to be able to catch their sneezes and their coughs. It's about washing their hands, and this is something that will happen at daycare as well, that you get them into the habit of doing this with those signs and symptoms that we talked about earlier, keeping home with that. And if the doctor says that it's all right to go back to daycare, then that's when you go. But Beck, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. This is probably going to happen a lot for the next little while. Okay, so anything else? Oh, Tori, do you think probiotics help immunity post antibiotics? Now, this is my opinion. And I certainly, when I was working in the hospital, we were involved in some trials of giving kids probiotics as well to shorten the length of symptoms for gastroenteritis. What we do know is that a huge amount of immunity comes from your gut. Once you have been sick, your immunity's down, we need to repair our gut, especially after antibiotics. I think that probiotics are definitely an important thing, especially if your child has been on antibiotics. So what I would recommend that you do is that you go and have a chat to your doctor, your pharmacist, or your nutritionist, whoever it is that you go and see, and make sure that you get a good brand of the probiotics. It's one that is made especially for children as well. So we shouldn't be giving, especially little kids, probiotics that are designed. Remember, this is a medication as well. It's still a medicine. Natural therapies are still medicines. So they need to be the right ones for your child. So definitely after antibiotics, what do I do in my family? Everyone is probiotic. Absolutely. That is the appropriate ones for their age. Make sure they're ones that are kept in the fridge. My daughter will only eat them if I mix it with a little spoonful of yogurt, and then, she'll have her probiotic powder. We do it during winter as well to try and keep everybody's immune system functioning as well as it possibly can, because we know that if our gut is damaged, if our gut is not good, then we are absolutely more at risk of having this, contracting viruses and things like that. Try and keep your immune system healthy. So I hope that's helped with that, Tori. And another question, hand sanitizers. I knew this question was going to come up. I knew it would. Do hand sanitizers still second best from hand washing? What we know is that soap and water and the friction, so it's the contact, it's not, there we go, under there. It's about getting in there and rubbing with the soap and water is gold standard. If you don't have that available, go ahead and use your hand sanitizer. Make sure that that friction is still there. So, you know, absolutely. Yep. So that's definitely second best. Absolutely. Soap and water, gold standard. Absolutely fantastic. And then if that's not available, hand sanitizers. But remember, hand sanitizers aren't good for visibly soiled hands. That's when we really want to get in there with the soap and water too. And Kurt has also asked, is it too late to get this year's flu vaccine shots? That's an interesting question. If you had have asked last year, I think the doctors would have said it's probably not worth it yet. It's interesting that we're still here in New South Wales seeing a lot of flu. I would recommend that you go and speak to your GP. They will be getting all of the information from public health about the presentations that are still happening with the flu, and they can advise you, particularly for wherever you live. And we've got to remember that the flu vaccine takes around 2 weeks to become effective as well. So I think that's definitely worth ringing up and having a chat with your GP to see what they've got to say about that. So, yeah. And Danielle has also asked, is saline helpful for little noses? Now, absolutely yes, because if you've got a little one at home, you may notice that they can't blow their nose. They, especially little ones who just, they become quite blocked and crusty, and they can get into respiratory distress really, really quickly. So especially little ones who are still breast or bottle feeding, you may notice that they can't feed properly when their nose is blocked. Going to the chemist, getting some saline drops or some Fess, whatever it is that you choose to use, it thins out that mucus so that they can then get rid of it, swallow it down, and they can breathe much easier. So yes, absolutely, that is a fantastic thing to do, and your child will probably sleep a bit better and they'll probably feed better if their nose is clear. I know certainly when I've got a sinus infection, if I'm able to rinse all of that out, I feel better. It's the same for them. Just be aware that if they're swallowing heaps of snot, they may just vomit it back up again. That's okay. They might just have a mucousy vomit. Don't worry, it'll just come out. It's all okay. So, are there any other questions? If not, I'll sign off for today. Remember, you can access all of our videos on our YouTube channel, CPR Kids TV, and please don't put it off any longer. Come and do a face-to-face class, please, because you need to have the life-saving skills of baby and child first aid. So remember, give us a ring. If we're not in your area, we will help you find somebody that is. So signing off, guys. Have a fantastic day. I hope that was helpful. And remember, write in the comments, what do you want us to do our next Facebook Live on? We love doing this for you. Okay, we'll see you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.